Hey everyone! So I'm continuing our little craft soiree and going on with today using memory wire. Now I've used the bracelet one just because this is probably going to be the quickest and easiest to use for a simple video like this. But in the sets that you can buy from Regna, you can get it in like a choker size, you can get it in the bracelet size as well as a ring size as well. So memory wire is, I'm going to assume, because I don't really know, called thus because it retains the memory of its shape. So when you shape it, it's actually quite hard to shape. You can't really get it out of shape that easily unless you actually physically bend it. So it can form like a really nice, very stable bangle rather than other wire which tends to flippy flop all over the place. So this is just the pack as it comes. From here, I tend to like to do about 3 rounds each. So take it to 3, and I give a little bit extra because you actually fold the ends over. So then grabbing your side cutters, cut it off. Now remember, memory wire is actually a lot harder to cut than any of the other wire. So thus it being more durable. It does tend to get a bit tangled up, but don't stress about that. It comes undone pretty easily. So we've now got our 3 bracelet wires ready to go. Grab a pair of needle nose pliers and twist off one end. What I actually really like to do is also include a charm in it, just because it looks really cute at the end. So pop your charm on and then continue wrapping around to finish it off, and your charm is nice and secure now. Then you start threading on from the other side. Now it's a little bit wriggly and a little bit crazy because it is like a harder wire, so it's not like using a tiger tail. But basically what you do is you just kind of keep feeding them on and then keep pulling it up and keep going with it. Now it does fit these sorts of chips, but just be aware you can't really use fat beads because it doesn't go around the corner. So because it's a twisted wire and it's bent, it doesn't really like super fat beads. So just keep going. And, oh no, it did fit. Sometimes these bead chips aren't drilled all the way through, like they kind of just drill it to have a little hole, not a big hole. But luckily, I tested a lot of these before we started, so we could be lucky. So for this one, I am using a really nice blue toned scheme, and I am using lapis lazuli, turquoise, and aquamarine. So it's a bit of a high-end one too, because I'm using a lot of quite rare crystals, which I like to do every now and then. Aquamarine is super subtle and it's kind of hard to tell, but it is there. It kind of looks like very, very blue ice when you see the glaciers. And then the fun bit is trying to get them all down. If they're a bit of an awkward shape, they don't go down it very easily. If they're a nice easy shape, they just like shoot down to the end like a roller coaster. Not that you really should be pushing them all the way down to the end yet. You can, but I just like to keep it out of my way. You'll find your own way of doing this soon enough. So as I said, the memory wire is from Regna. The crystals I get as well, and I stock crystal chips for anybody who needs them. I tend to try and get the ones that have like the full hole all the way through, so you can actually not run into problems. That was one of my biggest things about recording this, is I was terrified I would end up with one that didn't have a hole all the way through, and it would be like awkward sitting there just constantly trying to find ones with holes in them. Oh, oops, I messed up. Too busy talking to y'all. I broke it. So, same as before, you can go back on it, just undo it, pull it back. I forgot one of my silver beads. And redo it. Patterns are the easiest thing to do. You can actually start doing, if you get like really good at this, you can start doing patterns across the 3 lines. But for now, I'm just keeping it to a basic triple pattern going around. I have my like nicely arranged box of crystal chips, and I inevitably end up pulling them out and putting them on the table. There's just something easier about that. So I'm not going to do this whole thing on video. You can just see that I'm literally just threading them on and on and on. So I will now pause it and come back to you when I'm closer to the end, and I will then let you guys know what to do next. Alrighty, we're back again. I have finished the majority of it. Just continuing the same pattern the whole way up. So we've only got a little bit left. I will finish beating it up for you. When you're doing these last bits, just make sure that you keep shuffling them down so you haven't got any spaces, because otherwise obviously you'll end up with spaces in the final thing and you won't be able to space out your end correctly. So still going. This is obviously a lot more labour intensive than just doing the single stranded bracelets, but they end up really cute. I find a lot of people like them as well because you don't have to have a clasp on them, and especially if you've got like arthritis and things like me, having clasps is kind of awful. They're very hard to use. Or the elderly. I'll show you how to put one of these on later. They're really fun and they're a lot more simple than any other kind of bracelet. You can also use, for instance, like seed beads, you know, those really, really tiny beads that literally look like a seed. And you can create really beautiful patterns on it like they do in Africa. They do something very, very similar with a lot of glass seed beads. They just have really beautiful colours in them. But for now, I love using crystals, and I have to use crystals. Otherwise, who am I? I am not the crystal hedge witch anymore. Everything must contain crystals. So I'm almost there. When you're shuffling it down, you can also like spring it out a bit and give it a bit of a wobble. That can help to get them down. Just because like when you're holding it like this, you tend to have loops sticking up and then you can get weird gaps in it. More aquamarine. Some of them are a little bit awkward to get on there. Aquamarine's quite a brittle crystal, so it ends up being a little bit hard to use in this situation. Oh, look at that, and I've done two there. Whoops. Totally candid, dudes. I do not, well, really edit these. I could edit that mistake out, but I won't. So, going back to put just one on. See, I get talking, and then, unfortunately, I get distracted. Don't do what I do. And then some lapis, and we should be about done. Yep, two more. With these ones at the end, try and choose them quite carefully because obviously you want the end to have enough space to have a loop on there. That would be too small. So just, yeah, really select what ones you're using. Just to have it at the perfect size. I think this one, yeah, that looks pretty good. So, same again. What you're doing is finishing off with a loop. So grabbing the end with your needle nose pliers. Twisting it almost all the way over. Ooh, that was a bit of an ugly ending there. Memory wire is quite hard to use, and I've got a cute little lock to go with the key that we put on the first time. Go behind the charm and force it closed. And then you have it with charms on both ends that are really cute. And a final piece. I've left a little bit of leeway so the crystals can move around a little. So then to put it on, all you're doing is putting it on with one loop and wrapping it around. And that's the bracelet on. So that's how you create a memory wire bracelet. You can do it in twos, you can do three, you can do like a really long one if you want. It's exactly the same as if you're doing for chokers or rings. Although I probably wouldn't want to put the charms on the rings. That would be a bit weird. But thank you. Alright, I will see you again later for some new craft videos.